Rotamam Devim Sarasatim Vyasam Tito Jayodhyarayat. Nashta Prayashu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevyo Bhagati Utamashuki Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. Nigama Kapara Garitam Param Shukamakaram Rita Dravi Samitam Pivata Bhagatam Rashamaliam Mahora Sikabhivibham. Krishna Swadam Bhagate Damagini Karonastadri Shamesha Paranako Dunoditam. Anartha Pashamam Shakshat Bhakti Yogam Lokasajana Chakra Satvata Samitam. Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinu Bandhu Jigapate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute. Jayatam Sarito Pango Mama Mandir Mater Gati Matsavasha Parambo Jaradanamadanamanam. Siman Rasa Rasaram Bhivam Sivara Karsan Vinashanopika Gopinata Sri Sinaham. Divyad Brindaranya Kapadrumada Srimad Ratnagara Sima Sanasto Shri Sri Radha Shila Govina Prasadavihi Sevimanashmarami. Namo Brahmanya Devaya Go Brahmanya Taya Chajikaritaya Krishnaya Govinaya Namo Namaha. Mangalam Bhagavan Vishnu Mangalam Guru Rajam Mangalam Paririkacho Mangalaya Tanohari. Om Narayanaya Vidmahi Vasudevaya Dhimahi Tano Vishnu Prachodayate. Om Mahadevi Vidmahi Vishnu Pati Dhimahi Tano Lakshmi Prachodayate. Mahalakshmi Namastubhyam Sare Sare Hari Priya Namastubhyam Dayadide. Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Rari Vindavarishari Vishasana Vishuparasute Devi Pranamani Hari Priya. Nama Om Vishnu Paraya Krishna Pasaya Bhutale Srimati Bhakti Vedanta Shami Tanamane. Namaste Sarasati Devi Gauravani Pacharine Vishesanivari Paskada De Satarine. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasari Gaur Bhaktavindam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare. Hare Rama Rama Hare Hare. Good morning, Rob, over here on my right-hand side on Zoom, and on the left-hand side, thus far, we have Anjali from Phoenix, and Brent, who's just returned from what he described as a very fulfilling sadhu sang program in Vrindavan, the birthplace of Lord Krishna, with his to-be spiritual master Vaisheshika and about 150 devotees. So we have him pumped up, and on our left-hand side in Facebook, more to come, presumably on this Motivational Monday. We've got the background here, best of colors, because it's March. We're at the beginning of the month, and at the end of the month, at the other end of this month, we have our biggest event of the year. And it, in fact, compared to other color festivals, is the biggest in the country. Right now, I'm tasked with submitting, hopefully, what's going to be the final version of the application to the Utah County Sheriff's Office. I spent quite a bit of time over the weekend polishing up, adding to it. It is indeed a formidable document with all kinds of addendums and maps and stuff. And I asked my Bobby and Govinda Dev, our attorney, to read it over. And Govinda sent me a text this morning with a few suggestions. So I'll still have to tweak that and hopefully get it in early enough that when they get into their office, the Utah County Attorney, the Health Department, as well as the Sheriff's Office, will see that sitting in their inbox. Therefore, without any further ado, let's dive into our topic today, which is called the Divine Thief. Bhoktaram yagatapasham sarvaloka suridam gapmasham mam shantim richati. Krishna is described as the enjoyer of everything created, both phenomenal and numinal, spiritual and material. He creates everything. And not only does he create it outside of himself, but he absorbs everything as well. So he's both outside, he's both inside. He's separate, individual, localized. He's also all-pervasive. In his Paramatma feature, he exists within the atom. So it's not surprising then that during the descriptions of Krishna's pastimes in the Puranas, in the Krishna book, in the Srimad Bhagavatam, that he plays on several occasions with the universes in his abdomen. As a small child, 2, 3, 4 years old, he reveals himself in several pastimes to be the abode, the resting place, the shelter of, in fact, all of the material worlds. This is a pretty graphic example of how it is, number one, that Krishna owns everything because everything is within his belly, his transcendental belly, and also he's the enjoyer of everything. We enjoy what's in our belly, don't we? What's in our belly doesn't enjoy us. We enjoy what's in our belly. And once what's in our belly is enjoyed by us, then that enjoyment, that nutrition, that strength is distributed to all the different parts of the body. When we eat food, our weakness goes away, our discomfort goes away, our vertigo goes away to be replaced by strength, confidence, vitality, and an optimistic outlook. So Krishna is described as having the universes within his belly, as being the owner, the proprietor, the well-wisher of all living beings. There's a story I read a number of years ago about the owner. A man was neighboring, his property skirted a big mango grove. One night, well after dark, in the dead of night, 2 o'clock in the morning, he heard sounds coming from the grove. It sounded like someone had snuck over the fence, dragged a ladder with them, and there was scuffling sounds of a ladder, someone crawling up a ladder, and what seemed to be like the sounds of mangoes being picked. So the neighbor was concerned that someone was stealing his neighbor's mangoes from his orchard. He called the police. Police arrived on the scene. They found the gate open. They drove in with their searchlights. They located, indeed, it was true. There was someone on a ladder in the mango groves, on the top of the ladder, not only picking the mangoes, but eating. As he was picking with one hand, he was eating with another hand, and his lips and cheeks are smeared with that orange, pulpy flesh of the mango. So the police stop. Put your hands where we can see them. Come down, sir, from the ladder. You know how they always say, sir, just before they shoot you? No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. Disregard that. Strike that. Strike that. But then, upon closer inspection, it was determined. Are you ready for this? How many of you are anticipating what I'm going to say now? The thief, quote, thief, unquote, was the owner of the orchard. And he'd gotten the munchies late at night, and he thought, well, why don't I just go and eat some of my own mangoes? That's why, with his key, he unlocked the gate. When the police arrived, the gate was wide open. So what was potentially a grim, tense situation? Put your hands where you can see them. Get down. Lie down on the ground. Put your hands behind. What potentially was a tense situation where everybody's grim and wound up tight turned into hilarity. Everyone started chuckling. Then they started laughing and harumphing and chortling and giggling. Pretty soon their tears are coming from their eyes and they're rolling on their backs, holding their sides. And everything changed. The whole mood changed because of one factor. And the factor was that the owner was stealing his own fruit. And everyone just thought that was so funny. That just tickled them. Similarly, Krishna owns everything. He created everything. He owns everything. It's said that everything was within his belly. And yet when Krishna appears amongst human beings, like an actor, as the son of Mother Yashoda, Nanda Maharaj, he engages in these pastimes of stealing. He's famously known throughout India as Makhan Chor. Maka means butter, and Chor means he's a thief of butter. He's a butter thief. And there are many artistic paintings of Krishna standing there looking guilty, caught red-handed, the deer in the headlights by the gopis and Mother Yashoda holding incriminating evidence drifting from his right hand, the butter or the yogurt. And the gopis were constantly complaining to Mother Yashoda, don't you feed your child enough? And she says, why? Of course I feed him lots. They say, well, why does he come to our houses and steal our butter and steal our yogurt? So they're complaining. Butter and yogurt is food for the Brahmins, the best food for nourishing the brain and understanding spiritual subject matter. It's particularly favored by the Brahminical class of men, the intellectuals, the peaceful men, the priests. And in the village where Krishna appeared, that was the main commodity. It was milk from the cows, which produced cheese, butter, yogurt, ricotta, cream cheese, ice cream. I don't know if they had ice cream in those days. Probably had a version of it. Sure, why not? So it's the best food to eat for your brain. Milk products, not goat milk, not buffalo milk. They may have other nutritional qualities, but not the facility of creating finer tissues within the brain so you can understand spiritual subject matter. Of course, some devotees take this as a carte blanche to drink as much milk as they want and eat as many milk products as they want. And that's not good because your cholesterol level will go dangerously high. Prabhupada said, after we stop growing, our bones stop forming, we reach physical maturity, 12 ounces of dairy per day is enough in the form of yogurt, butter, whatever. So we shouldn't overindulge. But in our culture, the highest, most aristocratic, best food are dairy products, byproducts of a cow that is protected, that will never be killed, never be sent to slaughter, that is valued as, in fact, a mother. We all take the milk from our natural mother, and insofar as we also take milk from mother cow, she is also deemed to be worthy of respect and worship. At least we don't kill her when she stops giving milk. Krishna underlined this to such an extent that everywhere in Vrindavan, people were complaining about Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys breaking into their creameries and their butteries and eating as much as they liked. And then when they had eaten all that they liked, then they would give to the monkeys. And the monkeys would be sitting around with the cowherd boys and all of them stuffing themselves with yogurt. And this was a daily occurrence. So eating yogurt and butter is the right thing to eat. It's the best thing to eat for developing your higher mental faculties. But all the gopis, the cowherd maidens, were complaining that Krishna's eating the right thing in the wrong place. He should eat at home. Every mother tells her child, eat at home. Don't eat anywhere else without my permission. And above all, don't steal food from other people's kitchens or pantries or refrigerators. Now, in a twist to this story, there's a flip side. One day, Krishna had been out playing with the gopas. The gopis are the female cowherd associates, and the gopas are the male cowherd associates, the cowherd boy friends of Krishna. And there became a hue and a cry, a great hubbub. And Krishna came to Mother Yashoda, and the cowherd boys came to Mother Yashoda, and the cowherd boys complained, just as the cowherd girls had complained about Krishna eating the right thing in the wrong place. Now the gopas were complaining about Krishna eating the wrong thing in the right place. He'd been told by his mother and by the aunties and uncles, you should eat at home. You shouldn't go about stealing others' food. So he took that to heart and he's eating at home. The only problem is eating at home, now the gopas are complaining about him eating the wrong thing at the right place. He's eating at home outside in the courtyard of Mother Yashoda, but they said he's eating dirt. After hearing this from the gopas, Mother Yashoda turns to Krishna and she says, is what they say are true? Are you eating dirt? And Krishna said, no, they're lying. And Mother Yashoda said, well, if they're lying, there's a lot of them, and they've all got their stories straight. They're all saying the same thing, Krishna. There's a lot of witnesses here. And if there's one witness to a crime and he's not quite sure about what he saw, when the prosecutor grills him on cross-examination, if he falters at all, if he shows any doubt or hesitancy, pretty much that testimony is discounted. That's not going to be enough to convict the perpetrator of the crime. You need 2 or 3 witnesses, and they all need to be quite sure of what they saw. But Krishna, on the one hand, is trying to get off the hook by lying and saying they're lying. And Mother Yashoda wasn't born yesterday. She's no dummy. She says, well, I don't know, Krishna. There's probably too many of them to be all lying. I think in a court of law, you would probably be convicted. And then Krishna goes to the next line of defense, and he just tries to bluff. He says, oh, they are all liars, figuring, well, it's my word against theirs. And at least it'll end in a draw. At least it'll be inconclusive. It'll be a hung jury. But Mother Yashoda, again, she's a pretty sharp cookie. So she does what Krishna never thought she'd do. She calls his bluff. She says, well, if you've not eaten dirt and they're lying, then there's only one thing left to do. Prove it to me. Open your mouth. It's a funny pastime because it shows that God himself is trying to bluff his mother, and his mother is not being bluffed. Her love for Krishna is so overpowering that she overrides. Krishna is saying, don't push this any further. You've gone far enough. But out of concern that if her son actually ate dirt, he might be on the verge of getting sick. I have to get to the bottom of this. So even though Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, has warned her not to cross a line, and it's implied that when you are warned by God, you get good instructions, and you ignore those good instructions, you do so at your own risk. So Yashoda is in the mood that I don't care what happens to me. I may go to hell for disregarding Krishna's instruction. I may go to hell for crossing a line that Krishna has drawn in the sand, but that's not my concern. I'm not so much concerned about what happens to me for good or bad. My concern is for the health and the well-being of Krishna. And as his mother, I have to cross over that line and call his bluff, challenge him, and ask him, Krishna, you really got to open your mouth, because if you've got dirt in there, I've got to get some laxatives and purgatives. For your well-being, I need to see inside your mouth, and I need to see right now, kid. So Krishna's like, nobody does this. No, I warned her. I drew the line, and she's just marching right across it. And Krishna's like, he doesn't know what to do. He's used to people bowing and fawning and hallelujahs and hosannas and standing before him with knocking knees and chattering teeth and trembling. And here's Mother Yashoda, you storming it. Buster, open your mouth now. And Krishna's like, he's Supreme Personality of God, out of fear of whom, Mad Bhayad Bhatiyad, Sudhistab, out of fear of whom the sun rises and sets, out of fear of whom the tides go in and out, out of fear of whom the moon goes up and down, out of fear of whom death chases everyone. That Supreme Personality of God is like terrified of Mother Yashoda's determination. She's marching right in like that. So he opens his mouth. Mother Yashoda looks in. Her only concern, it reminds me of that incident, the personal servant, Govinda. Dasi was a personal servant of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He looked after Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. During Lord Chaitanya's later years, he often lost himself in trance, ecstasy. He would lose consciousness at the oddest places and fall down into the most convoluted, contorted postures. Sometimes his body would expand, his limbs would elongate. Other times, due to the feelings, strong feelings of ecstasy, his limbs, head would come into his body, like as happens with the tortoise. So one time Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had lost consciousness, the little hut where he was staying, and Govinda was rendering personal services. And one time in his bhava, Lord Chaitanya lost consciousness, and he lay across the doorway to the hut while Govinda Das was outside. So Govinda Das stepped over the body of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in order to massage the inside part of his body and do services that he could only do if he stepped over Lord Chaitanya's body. Now, normally you don't step over anybody's body, not any part of their body. When there's a big crowd in the temple and someone wants to go from one side of the crowd, they'll go through the crowd with their hand like that, so everybody knows to make a path, and he won't have to step over a foot or a hand or any part of the body, because the super soul is in the body. Each body is a temple, and you don't disrespect it by stepping over it. And when the devotees, the general mass of devotees came, and they saw that Govinda had not only stepped over the body one time to go inside, but he'd stepped over the body another time to go outside. They said, "What have you done? You stepped over the body of the Supreme Personality of Godhead?" Vairagya Vidyanidhi Bhaktin Shikshartam Eka Prabhu Shri Krishna Chaitanya Dari. This is Krishna in an embodied devotional form, and you stepped over it going in and you stepped over it going out. What are you thinking? And then Krishnadas Kaviraj says, quotes Govinda Kahe Mana Amara Seme Aparadhika Kiba Narakega Mana. For the comfort, for the service of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, I would willingly, happily go to hell. So Mother Yashoda disregards the advice of the Lord at great risk to herself. And she insists that he open his mouth, and she look into his mouth for his own well-being. She doesn't think of Krishna as God. She thinks of Krishna as her child and of herself as his caretaker. And she will not be delinquent in her duties of ensuring the health and happiness of Krishna. Now, when she looked into Krishna's belly through his mouth, she saw all the universes. She saw all the upper, middle, lower planetary systems. And in one of those middle planetary systems, she saw herself in Vrindavan, looking in the mouth of Krishna. And in that mouth, she saw herself looking in the mouth of Krishna. In that mouth, and it was overwhelming. How could all the universes be in the belly of my 2-year-old child? It couldn't be computed. There's no way to reconcile. God is achinta kaloye bhavanatamsteri. He's beyond the ability of our tiny pea-like brains to understand him. Mother Yashoda got dizzy and disoriented. She didn't know what was going on. But she's pretty sure that Krishna wasn't about to get sick. That was the purpose. That was the determination, the prognosis that she wanted to make. And after seeing all the universes in Krishna's belly, she was pretty sure that even if he had eaten dirt, he could probably handle it. Because, if you have the universes in your belly, that includes a lot of dirt. This one planet alone, millions, tons of dirt. And there are millions of planets. And they're all in Krishna's belly. So she didn't worry anymore about Krishna ate 1 or 2 little mouthfuls of dirt. So that's one instance of Krishna having everything within his belly. But it repeats itself. We have that same theme reappear in the pastime of Kaliya. The servant Kaliya is said to have been pursued by Garuda. Garuda loves to eat snakes. Kaliya is not just a snack for Garuda. Kaliya would be like a 10-course meal. He was big, huge, with many hoods, fat, a lot of fat on his bones. He was used to a royal lifestyle with many wives and the deference of the other snakes. And so he was a prime target for Garuda. And in the course of avoiding becoming a meal for Garuda, Kaliya came into the Yamuna River. He thought that Garuda will not intrude upon the area where Krishna, his Lord and Master, is engaged in his pastimes. And that was a pretty good calculation. The only problem is that Kaliya was so toxic, he had so much poison in his glands that the whole Yamuna River became noxious. And when the cows and the cowherd boys came down to the banks of the Yamuna to play or drink water, they passed out from the fumes. Someone told Krishna, Krishna, you got to come, come, come. Everybody's passed out. Everyone's lost consciousness on the banks of the Yamuna. So when he arrived there, he could see the serpent out there hovering, challenging in a very combative mood. Krishna tightened his belt, rolled up his sleeves, such as it was. Sometimes, like the Maori warriors of New Zealand, you slap your shoulders and you slap your thighs and you're giving a challenge to your opponent. And then there was a kadamba tree nearby. Krishna jumped up on that kadamba tree to get some height advantage, and he jumped into the Yamuna River. Shortly thereafter, Yashoda and Nanda Maharaj and the elders, Vrindavan, arrived. And they said, what's going on? Krishna jumped into the river. We haven't seen him for a few minutes. Oh my God. Yashoda herself fainted. And then, lo and behold, Kali emerged from the river with Krishna on one of his hoods. And far from being in danger of losing his life, Krishna is dancing on now one hood, and now another hood, and now another hood. And Krishna is so quick and lightning-like, transferring from one hood to another, that with his other 99 hoods, Kaliya cannot strike Krishna. He's too elusive. He's dancing in one hood, and the other 99 hoods focus, they surround him, they target, and they all lunge. By then, Krishna just steps off of one hood, avoids all the fangs, and then positions himself on another hood, and he's hitting the hoods, thump, thump, thump. Kali is like taking a beating like anything. Some say the origin of the very vigorous foot stomping Kathak dance style originates from Krishna having thumped the many hoods of the Kaliya demon. And so commentators on this pastime, why did, Krishna's just a little boy, 2 or 3 years old. Okay, even if he is thumping his little lotus-like feet on the head of Kaliya, why would that even bother Kaliya? It would be like a mosquito on an elephant, wouldn't it? I mean, how much can a 2-year-old boy weigh? But the fact is, every foot strike was like a blow, like a roundhouse blow in the boxing ring. It's like Mike Tyson. And Kalias, he doesn't understand where this power is coming from, and it's all he can do to keep his own head above water because Krishna is so heavy. At some point in this pastime, Krishna's bam, bam, giving him KO punches right, left, and center. And Kaliya's reeling, against the ropes. Kaliya saying, why are you so heavy? I mean, you're 2, 3 years, you couldn't weigh more than 22 pounds. And yet, and Kaliya is so strong and formidable. In fact, Kaliya is a stand-in for Anantashesha. Anantashesha is Balaram in another incarnation. And Anantashesha, the many-hooded serpent Anantashesha, carries all the universes on its heads. So Balaram couldn't participate in this pastime because this day happened to be Balaram's birthday in Vrindavan. Otherwise, on any other day, Balaram would have taken the role of the many-hooded serpent, and Krishna would have played on his coils and on his heads, celebrating the fact that Balaram, in his form as Anantashesha, does in fact carry all the universes on his heads. But because it was Balaram's birthday and Balaram wasn't available for that pastime, the stand-in, the proxy, was Kaliya. Kaliya is now being punished by Krishna. And Kaliya says, what did you eat for breakfast? How is a 2-year-old so heavy? And the answer to that is he's got all the universes in his belly. Kaliya's finding out what it's like for Anantashesha to carry the weight of all the universes in his belly. Because it was a special occasion, Krishna wanted to celebrate that multi-hooded serpent who holds all the universes in his head and who provides a bed, a resting place for Krishna in his form as Narayan, but because Balaram was not available that day because of his birthday, what to do? So Krishna arranged for a substitute, a stand-in, a proxy for Balaram. And thus it was that all the universes were on the heads of the multi-headed serpent. That's the second instance. First instance was Mother Yashoda seeing all the universes in Krishna's belly. The second instance is Kali feeling the weight of all the universes in Krishna's belly. And the third instance, and all of this is within a very, very short time window, Krishna playing the role of an infant in Vrindavan. Amongst all the demons that Kamsa sent to attempt killing Krishna, one of whom was Putana. Most of the demons that Kamsa sent were males. One exception was Putana, who was a witch, a female witch. And she had as her profession killing babies. She was quite adept at killing babies. Her modus operandus was to smear poison on her breasts and then invite the baby to suck her breasts. And when the baby would suck the poison, the baby would expire. She'd killed a number of babies that way. Sorry to say, it's not a very pleasant fact to bring up on a Monday morning. But it is a fact that Krishna had the blood, the death of many babies on her hands. So Krishna, Putana was delegated by Kamsa to go to Vrindavan and follow her normal procedure to get rid of Krishna. And she said, okay, another day at the office, been there, done that, no problem. When she reached the outer precincts of Vrindavan, she transformed from this gigantic, horrible, ghastly form into a very beautiful young lady. She sashayed amongst the gopis, and the gopis, being very simple, unsophisticated farm ladies, took her at face value. She said, where's Yashoda? I've heard about this beautiful baby Krishna. They immediately ushered her into Yashoda's environment. She said, oh, what's such a beautiful baby. I happen to have breast milk. Would you allow me to feed him in a private place? Again, Yashoda's very trusting, very naive. They can't imagine the black-heartedness of this beautiful lady. They couldn't imagine that she was, in fact, a horrible, ghastly, murderous, infanticidal witch who had duped them by changing her appearance. And Mother Yashoda, yes, by all means, please do. So when Putana got Krishna in her arms in a private place, and she wanted Krishna to take hold of her nipple, on which was a very powerful poison smeared, Krishna closed his eyes. She was looking at Krishna, appreciating the beauty of Krishna, appreciating that though she looked into the eyes of many infants, and infants are always cute. There's never an infant who's not cute. This is the cutest of the cutest of the cutest of the cutest. There's nothing, no one in her experience more attractive than Krishna. And so she became double-minded. She had second thoughts, reservations, scruples about actually carrying out Kamsa's orders. She thought, I should let this boy live. I should leave him alone. She also thought, the thought crossed her mind, he just looks like a little helpless baby in swaddling clothes, as it were, but I think he's powerful enough to destroy the universe. She was not unaware of the latent power there. So she very seriously thought of putting Krishna aside and just aborting the mission. But then she thought, well, if I go back to Kamsa and tell him that I didn't make the attempt, he'll kill me. So she's going back and forth between devotion, what's actually devotion, who can help it, who can be immune to the beauty of Krishna. So in her heart, and she's a spirit soul just like the rest of us, she's finding the seeds of devotion. And she's reluctant to bring harm to this beautiful baby. I mean, he never did anything to me. Even, no matter what her history had been, confronting Krishna was a game changer. She wanted to cease and desist, abort the mission. But then when she thought of Kamsa, she thought, well, I better just go ahead. Otherwise, I'm going to be a dead woman. And Krishna himself closed his eyes. And that part, there is a couple of reasons for him closing his eyes. One is that he didn't want her to see the power in his eyes. He didn't want to see her to see the divinity. He wanted her to go ahead because that was his prior plan. He wanted her to go ahead and try and kill him because he had a plan in his face. And so therefore, when she looked and she was in danger of being mesmerized by his beautiful eyes and giving up her mission, he closed his eyes as a way of encouraging her. And he also rubbed his belly. Now, why was he rubbing his belly? He's rubbing his belly, according to commentators, because all the living beings, all the universes are in his belly, as well as being external. They're also internal, bahir antas, inside and outside. And they're concerned. They're like, Krishna, if you drink this poison, you'll be fine. You won't be affected. But when that poison enters through your digestive system into the belly, the whole universes will be destroyed. So Krishna closed his eyes to encourage Putana in her nefarious scheme, but also he having this internal dialogue with the inhabitants of the universes in his belly. And he's assuring them, I won't drink the poison. I'll let Shiva drink the poison. That's what he does. That's what he's done in the past. He's good for it again. And I'll just drink the milk. So he's reassuring the living beings. Jana Nivasha. Jana means the populations of the universes, and Nivasa means who are residing within his body. He's reassuring them that I'm not going to jeopardize you by actually swallowing the poison. I'll take the milk and I'll let Shiva drink the poison. So it is to that Krishna that Gajendra is offering his prayers in the 3rd chapter of the 8th canto of the Bhagavatam. It is to that Krishna who holds the universes within his belly, as evidenced by Mother Yashoda looking for dirt, as evidenced by Kaliya feeling the weight of Krishna on his head, and is also evidenced by Putana, and the fact that Krishna is assuring the living beings within his belly that he will not threaten them by drinking the poison. To that Jana Nivasa, the word is used by Gajendra to address Krishna as the abode, the resting place of all living beings. And it's said that because Krishna is the shelter, because all living beings are in his belly, and he protects them from such as the poison of Putana, Gajendra is saying, Lord, you have to protect me. I'm also one of your parts and parcels. I'm also one of your servants. And I'm confident that in times of danger, you will not jeopardize those who are chanting your holy names and surrendering to your lotus feet. Even though I'm sinful, even though I forgot you the entirety of my life up to this point, even though I have been distracted and absorbed uh, and detoured from your lotus feet by all the pleasures that I've experienced as the king of the elements, as a husband, as a spouse, on a first name basis with the demigods here in the heavenly Trikuta planet, even though I could be considered the most sinful of all people, right now I'm invoking you. I'm thirsty for your mercy, which is greater than all my mistakes. I've heard all it takes to awaken your protection is a single cry of helpless affection. Lord, in spite of my shame, I'm calling your name in the middle of the fight. Please reclaim me from the might of the crocodile's bite. When I'm released from the teeth of the croc, block ignorance in my life and lock me into your devotional service. Lord, let my original purpose rise to the surface. I'm knocking at your door. Please keep me close from now until evermore. And then it said that when the Lord heard the eloquent prayers of the elephant, he steered Garuda to the spot, and he sheared the crocodile's head from his body. With Gajendra, when the reptile lay dead and Gajendra was shed of his dread, he resumed the thread of his prayers and said, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. That's it for today. Thank you, Rob, for being with us on Zoom, and Brent on Facebook. Anjali by Bobby joined. Namamrita Das, Brittany Anderson, pronouns. Chad will write Dutch, known as Dutch to his friends. Some verses here from Brent, newly returned from India and on a wave of inspiration. He writes, the owner of the orchard can't be ordered. You could blame any other for eating dirt or stealing butter, but you can't bemoan when God enjoys his own. If caught with dirt in his belly or his hand in the pot, if caught with dirt in his belly or his hand in the pot, he expands the plot to show himself the proprietor of everything numinous, phenomenal, known and unknown. That is really good. You're not only getting better, but you're getting more expansive. Your poems are longer. We're going to eventually be able to take your poems and make full-fledged, full-blown songs out of them. The owner of the orchard can't be ordered. You could blame any other for eating dirt or stealing butter, but you can't bemoan when God enjoys his own. If caught with dirt in his belly or his hand in the pot, he expands the plot to show himself the proprietor of everything numinous, phenomenal, known, and unknown. Well done. Well done. That seems to be the extent of the comments and the persons who have joined us on Facebook. So I'll move now from left to right and ask Rob to leave us with some final takeaways here.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
All right. I only got a few today, but I think
Not
they're
necessarily looking
on
for
topic.
quantity.
Krishna is without and within, and everything comes from him.
Mm-hmm.
Krishna gives comic relief through his adolescent mischief. And Krishna is the abode of all, every creature, great and small.
Every future?
Creature.
Oh, every creature. Krishna's the abode of all, every creature, great and small. Excellent. Thank you to yourself. Thank you for Brent. Thanks everyone for being with us on this motivational Monday, and wish me luck as I put the finishing touches off of this encyclopedic application for permission from the police for our Festival of Colors. Guide my intelligence, guide my typing fingers so that I give the right answers and that we get our permit and thus forge ahead, green lighted, full steam ahead towards the Maha epic yajna, full of transcendental messages, delicious prasadam, and the reverberations of the holy name far and wide in Utah Valley this 30th and 31st of March. I'll take your leave, resume my duties as the organizer of the Festival of Colors in Spanish for Utah. But hopefully, having taken care of all that this morning and this afternoon, we'll be back tomorrow for further nectarine discussions on the topic of Krishna as the owner and as such, the divine transcendental thief. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.